Today marks the 2020 official celebration of World Press Freedom Day. The current COVID-19 pandemic has shifted and forced the media to find creative and alternative means of reporting verified information to the public. However, the new Unesco study reveals that in recent years, the news media have faced increased challenges to editorial independence, resulting in the struggle for journalists to work free from fear or favour. The Director for Freedom of Expression and Media Development at Unesco, Professor Guy Berger, is joining us via Skype to help us observe this day and just how to remain independent and impartial. Professor, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers as well.
We are celebrating this day at a time where the world is battling with the COVID-19 pandemic. Just talk us through the challenges posed to media freedom in the context of the coronavirus pandemic.
Sure. Well, I think it may be interesting also for your viewers to know that this day, it's recognized by the UN, and actually it was a gift from Africa to the globe because it comes out of a conference in Namibia 1 year after Namibia got independent apartheid, and 1991. So 29 years later, this day just keeps on being observed. And I thought this week why it's also so important. I was reminded to the death of Dennis Goldberg, who was a Rivonia trialist with Nelson Mandela, spent 23 years in prison. So I had the experience of spending 2 years with Dennis Goldberg in Pretoria prison. And at the time when I got there, the political prisoners had some access to newspapers. But for at least 15 years, they were cut off from media altogether. They had no media whatsoever. And I myself, I was charged by the prison authorities because one day I was caught with a newspaper and I was turning the pages. So that's the kind of situation that we have come from in South Africa. And I think people can try to imagine what it's like to have no media at all. And then, of course, some people remember the days of apartheid when the media was really well under control. And that media that didn't get controlled was very much persecuted. So, of course, South Africa has its own Press Freedom Day, also 19th of October, which is the anniversary of the banning of two major newspapers, The World and the Weekend World. So this is why it's important that we don't take for granted that there's a free media. And as you said, in these times, it's really important that we have an independent media where the journalists can do their job without fear and without favour. Of course, in democratic South Africa, this is possible in the law, but we have found journalists have been attacked. We have found that some controls have tried to be put on the media, even at SABC. Yourselves, your colleagues Tandeka Kubule and Krivani Pillay and others had to really push to get independence for SABC to do its reporting. So we can never take this for granted, but I think it's super important that we don't have a captured media because we need, as society, to have something that we can trust when it comes from the media. And so what's important then, especially in these times, is to have journalism without fear and without favour. And there should not be, as UNESCO is saying, a mask of the truth, especially at a time when there's uncertainty, when people don't know exactly what's true, when there's a lot of false things going on. The media needs to be credible. And secondly, a free and independent media has to hold the authorities accountable, and indeed individuals as well. So, sometimes there's overreach, as we see. Sometimes there's confusion. Sometimes there can be improvements in the way that government is communicating. And really, an independent media can play a huge role in that regard. And so we should really treat today, as the world is doing, treat it as a special day to remember the importance of media that can help us, each individual, find a way forward, even though these are such difficult times when we have to choose between mass death on the one hand and huge hardship on the other hand.
Now, in regions where concerns of safety lead to self-censorship of journalists, do you think that there is still hope for adversarial and critical journalism?
Well, this is exactly the point of having a United Nations Day like today, because it's to try to persuade governments and sometimes public that actually you are best served by having an independent media. When a media is just a mouthpiece for special interests, one media owner or by the government, it's not doing the job where society needs to get the range of facts. So at UNESCO, we have a slogan now that says for this time that lies kill and facts save lives. And we have the slogan also that a free press cures lies 19, which of course is a pun on the COVID-19, because really today it's a life and death issue. And so even governments that don't like the media criticizing them, giving voice to opposition, to dissidents, governments need to realize this is the only way we can get forward, because in a case like this, we know what is true and we know some things that are not true. But there's a lot of stuff that is up for debate. For example, what is the best policy response? How long should it go? Nobody has the exact science here. And so what we need in that respect is the media to help raise the different issues, bring public opinion to the top. And then everybody can begin to say, okay, well, this is working, this is not working, let's move ahead. And so South Africa is lucky that we have a strong independent media. We have strong courts to protect the media. We have a public that knows its freedom of expression is super important. Other countries are not so lucky, but they need it, because if they don't have it, I think it will be more difficult for them to pass through this terrible period. And I must say one last thing. What we're seeing today, because of this COVID, is economic hardship, terrible hardship for many, many people, but also for many media, because, of course, advertising is collapsing. And the community media, community radio is in great trouble. So I'm pleased to see that government has offered some money to the community media in South Africa. I think more can be done. Certainly, even your independent newspapers, independent websites, and SABC itself, you need strong support from public funds. But those funds should be with no strings attached. Because you as journalists, you need to be trusted to have your self-regulation. You need to be trusted to be professional, to do your job as best you can, to bring the facts to the public and to promote informed debate, not speculation, not rumor, but to do your job in raising what needs to be raised and in holding everybody accountable for what they are doing at this very difficult time.
All right, Professor Berger, we thank you so much for your reflections and for your thoughts on this. Much appreciated. That was Professor Guy Berger. He's a Director of Freedom of Expression and Media Development at UNESCO. And we're just in conversation about the 2020 World Press Freedom Day that is being celebrated today.